A number of years ago, I was in Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh, on Tisha B'Av. And I was with a very, very dear friend who told me that I have to come with him to the minyan that he davens every single year. The minyan that he davens is a big yeshiva in Yerushalayim. And in this yeshiva with thousands of bachrim, thousands of students, he finds tremendous hisorus, tremendous feeling. And he feels Tisha B'Av really. And that I should come with him to the Mir Yeshiva in Yerushalayim, and he's going to get me a spot right across, seated next to the Rosh Yeshiva, Zecher Tzadik V'Kodesh Livracha Rav Nosson Tzvi Finkel, was alive at the time, fighting a very difficult illness, but nonetheless inspiring Klal Yisrael in such a way. And as I made my way into the building on that Tisha B'Av, and it was solemn and it was serious, and the room was dark in the Beis Medrash, I was ushered to my spot, sitting on the floor, and I literally had the spot that would be called the box seats lahavdil, to be in the place literally closest to the Rosh Yeshiva Zatzal. I didn't have a close relationship with Rav Nosson Tzvi Finkel, only the opportunity to meet him a few times, but to be in his presence was to be in the presence of utter greatness. And I was anticipating what was going to be this Tisha B'Av experience. What was it going to mean, and how was it going to feel? And after Ma'ariv completed, and the words of Eicha Yoshva Badad, those words emanated from the Balkore's mouth. Literally the sobbing from the Rosh Yeshiva, it was palpable, it was tangible, it was uncontrollable. The tears that he shed, the body movements that he made, the mourning that he showed, the pain that he felt, the loss of Beis HaMikdash 1 and 2, Beis Rishon, Beis Sheni, the Chorban Beis HaMikdash. It was not just hyperbole or imagination. It wasn't just a mere lip service, but it was something that he felt with literally every fiber of his being. It was a Tisha B'Av that I was never to forget. And I found myself, while glancing at the words, but also in the periphery of my eye, looking at the Rosh Yeshiva, and I was sobbing alongside to see how one person, to see how a place can feel Chorban Beis HaMikdash, can feel the loss so much. It is those tears that I'm mindful of. It is the loss of Beis HaMikdash that we feel. And it is the words of Eicha Yoshva Badad that our beautiful Balkore Uri will chant in just a few moments. In a Tisha B'Av for all of us, that is a Tisha B'Av like we have never, ever experienced before. You see, the three area shuls, all of us are streaming via Zoom and live stream on social media. Via Zoom, to be able to have a meeting of our kehillah, of our communities, to be able to listen to Eicha. And the first time since I have, and we have all, mourned the Beis HaMikdash destruction together as a community at the Boca Jewish Center in our Kehillah HaKadosha. For the first time, we do not meet together. We do not sit on the floors nearby to each other. We do not mourn and lament kinos and hear the words of Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah the prophet, together. But rather we are sitting, most of us, in our homes. We are sitting not only socially distanced physically, but what feels like socially distanced from each other in a way that feels so terribly painful. It's not just that we are able to mourn the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, the exile from our holy temple in Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh, in our shuls, in our Mikdash Ma'at, in Boca Raton, Florida, and around the country and around the world. But we are literally in exile from even our exile. The exile, the badad, the solitude, the singular, the uniqueness of what it means to be in quarantine, badad and bidud. It's something that takes tremendous meaning now, making this Tisha B'Av arguably the most meaningful and most powerful, most impactful, most painful Tisha B'Av of all Tisha B'Avs that we have ever experienced. Have we ever yearned for, longed for, pained for, desired more? A desire to be together in our Mikdash Ma'at, in our Beis HaMikdash, in our Beis HaKnesses, for us to be able to mingle with each other, to daven together, to share Kiddush and Simcha, and to share in the celebration and perhaps even the sorrows that some have felt during these times, these months, away from each other. The pain that we feel, it is so tangible. It is not imaginary. It is real, and it is painful. And it is what we mourn this year uniquely from years previous. Eicha Yoshva Badad. This is a Tisha B'Av like never before. A legendary story is told of the great French leader Napoleon. He was once traveling through a small Jewish town in Europe. He went into a synagogue, and there he saw an incredible sight. He saw something almost unimaginable. Men and women were weeping bitter tears. They were sitting on the floor, they were holding candles, and they were reading from books. The synagogue had an elaborate chandelier, but only a few candles were lit. If not for those small candles, this magnificent synagogue would have been in complete and utter darkness, in choshech. It was a gloomy and sad sight to behold. Napoleon asked why the people were weeping, and wanted to know what misfortune had just happened here. What was so terrible? An educated Jewish French officer told him that nothing new and terrible had happened. The Jewish people have a minhag, they have a custom to gather once a year on a day called the 9th of Av, Tisha B'Av, a day that marks the destruction of their temple. Twice they built a magnificent temple in Jerusalem, and 2 times the temples were destroyed. After their second temple was destroyed, the people were scattered all over the world and sold as slaves. Some escaped and built their homes the world over. Somehow, the Jewish people, they exist without their country and without their temple. In order to commemorate these sad events, they gather once a year into the synagogue, into their temples. It's there that they fast. It's there that they pray. It's there that they read sad prophetic writings concerning the destruction of their temple and their land. What we see in this town takes place in all Jewish communities across the world. Napoleon, he inquired as to how many years they have been doing this, and was told over 1,700 years. Upon hearing this, Napoleon exclaimed, "A nation that cries, a nation that fasts for over 1,700 years for their land, a nation that mourns and fasts and cries for its temple will surely be rewarded with their temple." Now, friends, whether this story is actually true, whether it happened or not, is almost irrelevant. What is important, though, is that it illustrates the statement of Chazal at the end of the Gemara in Maseches Tanis, folio 30b, Lamed Omid Beis, where the Gemara says that anybody who mourns properly the tragic loss of the Beis HaMikdash and Yerushalayim will be zocha, will merit to see its rejoicing, will celebrate with its being rebuilt. Our Beis HaMikdash, the focal point of our nation, of our people. The Beis HaMikdash, a place where Hashem's presence could be felt in the world, was destroyed centuries ago, and yet not a year has gone by without Jews across the world mourning and paying and longing for it to return and for us to go back home to Artzeinu HaKdosha. One who, Rachmana Litzlan, chooses to disconnect from this, one who chooses to not appreciate what it is that we have lost, will be totally unmoved when that lost item is returned. Tisha B'Av, it is real. Our suffering, it is real. From time immemorial has formed so much of our identity and has strengthened our resolve and belief that this bitter gullus is a temporary stage that Emiretz Hashem will pass. It's like the famous passage that I like to share year after year from the excerpt of Rabbi Emanuel Feldman, The Tales Out of Shul, where he writes that Tisha B'Av is not everyone's favorite day, but it is one of mine, not because it's enjoyable, because of what Tisha B'Av represents. He says, I like Tisha B'Av because of what it says to me about Jews, that we are a people that remembers, that has a zikaron, and knows its past leads to a promising future. I like Tisha B'Av because it contains a message of profound tikva of hope and faith. On this day, our Chachamim, our sages tell us that Mashiach Tzidkenu, the Messiah, was born. How profoundly insightful, how unbelievably, impactfully ironic, just how. On the day of destruction, of Chorban, Geula, redemption, begins. Chazal explains that one of the main reasons why Klal Yisrael suffered the loss of the Beis HaMikdash and the terrible destruction and Holocaust that accompanied it was because we had become disconnected from Hashem, far, rachik from Hashem. We relied, Chazal tell us, on the Kohanim in the Beis HaMikdash to do the avodah on our behalf, and we would get on with our everyday lives. We would let other people do the things that we ourselves were likewise responsible to do. A large part of this tzara, a large part of this tragedy is that today, we too are so disconnected from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we don't even comprehend what we've lost by not having a Beis HaMikdash. We don't even know what it is that we're mourning. We know all the halachos of the 3 weeks, and Rosh Chodesh, and the 9 days, you can't eat meat and drink wine. You sit on the floor, you wait till Chatzos. We have to keep all of these halachas in mind year after year to feel the avelus, of course. No taking of haircuts, no shaving, no weddings. But many find it hard, very hard to feel any loss on a communal level, on a Klal Yisrael level, and in particular, on a personal level. And yet the Gemara in Maseches Chagiga Daf Hey Amud Beis tells us, describing Hashem as he who is Beichab Mistorim. He, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, cries out in hidden places. The Maharal Prague in Netzach Yisrael explains that the hidden places refers to the neshamos, the souls of each and every one of us, which are a small portion, a small part, a small chelek of HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. Imagine, every one of us has a neshama inside of us, which is crying out, yearning for, wanting so badly the Beis HaMikdash to be rebuilt, and yet we are so disconnected, we are completely unaware. And so once a year, tonight and tomorrow, as we have done year after year on Tisha B'Av, we spend time for an entire full day, focusing through the recitation of Kinos and various other texts, the incredible loss that Klal Yisrael suffered, and in fact are still suffering today, and we feel it so acutely. But not only should we think about the pain that we are meant to be experiencing as a result of living in Golus and exile, but we should think about the pain, literally the pain that HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chvodo uve'atzma, that Hashem himself also, Kavayachol, is also feeling. However, Hashem's pain, it's exasperated because not only is he not able to be close to his dear children, Klal Yisrael's Jewish people, as he is so desperate to be close to us, but his children don't even feel that they're missing out. They don't even feel a yearning. They don't begin to comprehend how special life would be if we could only return to that close, that intimate bonding, and that incredibly special relationship. And so Tisha B'Av, my friends, gives us a chance to pause, to reflect, to think about the enormity of what it is that we have lost. Perhaps to listen to a shir online. There are so many great classes, Torah classes, unbelievable books that you can even download online, but to even just personally introspect what badad, bidud, what quarantine, what isolation, what solitude, what it means, and perhaps even more importantly, to resolve to make a positive change in your life, in all of our lives, both singularly and personally, and also communally as well. As we sit near the floor on Tisha B'Av Eve and throughout the morning, reading through all of the special and gut-wrenching words of the Kinos, as we say lamentations, let us allow ourselves to feel the pain of those members of Klal Yisrael who have so many trials, have so many tribulations, have so much difficulty, are yearning for a different way of life, whether it's with health, whether it's parnasa, whether it's with shalom bayis, those who've lost loved ones, and those who are so terribly worried and concerned about losing their loved ones. And let's be noisel b'ay chaveiro, let's feel the pain of our brothers and sisters and feel the pain of our Father in heaven, Avinu Shebashamayim, who so desperately wants us to come close to him, to come home, so that he can embrace us once again. B'mheira v'yameinu. Amen. At this time, I turn your attention